Good afternoon, everyone. The Sacramento City Council will please come to order. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish a quorum?
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Ashby,
Here.
Councilmember Warren,
Here.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Present.
Councilmember Hanson,
Here.
Councilmember Chenier,
Here.
Councilmember Guerra,
Here.
Councilmember Jennings,
I am present.
Councilmember Carr,
Here.
and Mayor Steinberg.
Here. Would everyone who is able please rise? I'd ask Vice Mayor Harris to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon to everyone. We are going to begin tonight with a very appropriate resolution regarding Code Enforcement Month, a very big part of what our city does, and I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Ashby for the presentation.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I have with me one of our city resolutions put together by our team to appropriately thank code enforcement. As you all know, the state of California proclaims the second week of October the Code Enforcement Appreciation Week. And we know that because we try to take time each year to thank this team. They do so much for the safety, health, and welfare of citizens in the city of Sacramento. And we just couldn't do what we do without them. In case folks don't know who are listening, our Office of Code Enforcement also oversees much of what happens with our buildings and code compliance. And we want to just make sure that we thank our dedicated, highly qualified, highly trained professional staff. And as we all know, during COVID, we've relied on them even more than usual. So today, on behalf of all of my colleagues and the mayor, we just want to thank Peter Lemos and his entire team that are out there every day trying to help keep our city safe and clean and keep the zoning and code rules enforced. So my colleagues may have additional comments, but thank you, Code Enforcement.
Thank you for, thank you for a very good presentation. Well deserved. It's one of the most important core services that our city provides. And I remember from my days as a district council member that those were the major complaints that I got, I know, in southeast part of the city, because people rightfully demand that the neighborhood be kept up. And so thank you for very, very important public service. Are there other members of the council who would like to comment?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, I don't. Yes, go ahead, Councilman Hanson.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Councilwoman Ashby for bringing this forward. Code enforcement is an integral part of what we do. Peter Lemos has done a phenomenal job as our code enforcement director. Jose Mendez and the whole team really deserve a lot of support. We are actually going to be presenting specific certificates to certain employees in the coming weeks for their work after some of the civil unrest earlier in June. And then throughout the summer, code enforcement was up all night long for several nights in a row to help businesses board, to help provide community response. And I know a lot of times we think of them as what we call for illegal dumping or unsafe building, but it really is a department that is on the front lines of so many critical services to the city, emergency response, in a different way than we usually think of as well. And so I just really want to thank the staff for going above and beyond during these unusual times to provide services to every member of the public. And I'm grateful, as well as I know so many others are too.
Mr. Mayor, just a comment?
Yes, yes,
So,
go ahead.
Thank you. That was very well said by Councilmember Hanson. The fact of the matter is our staff in code enforcement are slightly understaffed, and so they carry a very heavy load. They do a tremendous amount of work for the city. And I just wanted to put in my 2 cents that they're very highly appreciated by the council.
Very good. So The presentation will be presented virtually, and we'll make sure that the team gets that. Thank you, Councilmember Ashby, Mayor Pro Tem, for bringing this forward. Let us move now to the consent calendar, and I know that there are some items that members would like to pull, or at least I understand that Pro Tem Ashby and Councilmember Warren want to speak on item 7, and that Vice Mayor Harris would like to pull item 21. Is that correct?
Yeah, pull item 21 for discussion and separate vote, please. I'd also
Okay.
like to make a brief comment on item number 17.
17, did you say?
Correct.
Okay. So are there any other items that members would like to either pull or have taken up separately?
One brief thing, Mayor. Item number 6, the Mills Act item. One of those properties is adjacent to my house, so I'll abstain on item number 6, just out of
Okay.
abundance.
Councilmember Hanson will abstain on item 6. The record will note that for the record when we take the votes, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Is there public testimony on the consent calendar?
I have 8 callers on the consent calendar.
Okay. Do you know whether they're relating to item 21 or not?
I do not. We don't know have a way to differentiate.
So Vice Mayor Harris, that's a little tiny bit of a conundrum here, because I would bet you that without knowing that most of the callers are calling on item 21. How do you want to handle that?
Well, I think it's likely, but since the discussion will ensue right after we adopt consent, I think it's okay to take the calls now. That
Okay.
way nobody else is left out on the item they want to speak to.
Okay, let's take all the public testimony then on any consent item. We have 8. Let's hear from the public. Thank you.
Thank you. First caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Okay, I would like to address item 21 in the consent calendar, which is the restriction of overnight parking and limitation to 2-hour parking in streets in the River District. My name is Kathleen Williams, and I live in District 1. And the reason I'm calling tonight is that there was a time, a shameful time, when this city council sued Loaves and Fishes and tried to make it discontinue its essential services. And I look upon this parking ban as an attack on Loaves and Fishes and as an attack on the unhoused people that come to use its services to provide the essential items that it provides, as well as the many volunteers and supporters. It shocks me and horrifies me that this city, which includes among its residents people who are unhoused, people who are unhoused because of poverty and because of issues that haunt them the way they haunt so many people in our society. And that this city council would attempt in this underhanded way to limit parking. Many people need to be in that area. Some of them probably live in those cars at night. And it is a shocking and shameful thing that this city council could put an item like this on the consent calendar and attempt to sweep it through without a thorough examination. It is not, to my knowledge, an area that is congested, where there are reasons to limit parking. It is a peaceful area that is frequented by many people in need and many unhoused people. And I hope you will take this off the consent calendar. You will open it to a full
Thank you for your
community
comments. Your
discussion.
time is complete. Will you make your final comment, please?
Yes. Don't do this. Daryl Steinberg, our mayor, you opposed suing the city.
Thank you
suing
for your
Loaves and Fishes.
comments. Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you in regards to the parking ordinance. As a representative for a property owner in the River District, I can tell you that we experience from time to time periodic chaos as far as trying to get our trucks in and out of our facility. It's difficult at best to drive truck during these days, excuse me, especially with traffic being what it is. But when you have to sit outside and block traffic because you can't get into your facility, that's inexcusable and certainly should be corrected. And I appreciate the opportunity with the ordinance to come up, and I hope you do approve of that ordinance, because there's so many businesses such as ours that are experiencing the same difficulty. And I'd like to see it rectified as quickly as possible. And I appreciate the time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Greta Lachin. I'm the president of the River District Board. Many hardworking businesses are located here, and we deserve your support in our efforts to grow and thrive in the River District. And we are growing, with several large projects on the horizon, including the Richards Boulevard State Office Complex, Marisol, T9, and right on our doorstep, the Powerhouse Science Center, the MLS Stadium, and the rail yards. We have a great deal of growth ahead, and we have worked hard to get to this threshold. For decades, we were an area of mostly industrial warehouses, largely neglected by the city. But we have evolved into a dynamic district, and we will continue to change and grow. We deserve the same safe and orderly parking as other business and residential districts, with a well-thought-out parking plan to encourage that. We strongly advocate for the passage of this ordinance to support the many businesses that are here now and the businesses and residents that are being built now and in the future. This ordinance is a long time coming. It has been studied and developed for more than 2 years. I would hope that when it comes before you, you will vote yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Thank you. Good evening, honorable council members and Mr. Mayor. My name is Jenna Abbott, and I'm the executive director of the River District. I would like to express support for the thorough and thoughtful parking plan that city staff has put together, and the River District would like to be on the record as saying that we support this. A lot of work has been done, and we would just like to say that we hope that this will go forward. Thank you so much for your time.
Ms. Abbott, if I may, I just wonder if you might, I don't know, stay on hold or whatever, but in case there are questions after, in the midst of the discussion, it would be good to have some representative of the River District at least available in some way in case the council has any questions or wants to dialogue with the business association.
I would be happy to. I'm not sure how to do that.
Not sure either.
The technology will not allow her to stay on hold, but we will be able to call her back if we need to.
Okay, that's fine.
I will be
Okay.
available.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
you.
Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hello, my name is Susan Crane, and along with my husband, Lawrence Crane, we own the Party Concierge in the River District. We wanted to express support for the city staff has done to create a thoughtful and appropriate set of parking restrictions for the area around our business and throughout the River District. I appreciate you taking my call and encourage the council to pass the resolution as it's written. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hi there. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. This is Joe Smith. I'm the Advocacy Director at Loaves and Fishes, and it's no surprise, I'm calling in to discuss item 21 on the consent calendar. I want to ask that the city not take any action as far as parking restrictions in the River District. Right now, we have a large amount of people sleeping in vehicles all throughout the River District and really all over the city who have nowhere else to go. So not only just the River District, but I'd ask that you really take a look at any other areas you're considering parking restrictions and really consider like who is staying there. I know that there are families sleeping in their vehicles in the River District. They're scared to go to the shelters. They don't want to get sick from COVID. Some of them come to school at the mustard seed school. So I'd ask that you consider taking that parking restrictions away. Also, Mayor and Council, safe ground and safe parking are coming up in the next couple of weeks. It's cleared law and legislation. The solution, or a possible solution, to the parking conundrum is on the way. So by pushing people out of the neighborhood now, you'd actually be pushing them away from the services they need, and it's going to make them a whole lot less trusting of the solutions you're going to bring forward later. And also, I'd like to point out that if you push people out of the River District, that they're going to move as close as they can to Loaves and Fishes and still get services. They're probably going to end up in the residential neighborhoods, and that's going to be create an unsafe condition for everybody concerned. So your attention to the matter is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hi, my name is Robert Copeland. I live in District 4. This is not a very well planned. This is not very well planned that you're having, because where's the homeless population going to go? And also, I've been going to city council since Kevin Johnson was mayor, and you have not reduced the homeless population in the River District or in the other area of Sacramento. Get on the ball and come up with a plan. We are willing to help. But if you want to antagonize us, we'll fight you every step of the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no more callers. We'll get
Okay.
Ms. Abbott back on the line and transfer her to the chambers.
If needed, I just want to make sure, depending upon the.
I want to make sure she can hear your comments. If we don't bring her into the chambers, she won't be able to hear
Oh,
you.
I see. Okay, that's fine then.
Thank you.
Please do that. So remember, we were going to take a motion on the entire consent calendar before we get to 21, which is going to be heard separately. So let's go back. And I know that both council members Warren and Ashby had comments on item 7. So why don't we hear from the members on item 7, and then we'll take a motion on the consent calendar other than item 21. So whoever is first, Ashby or Warren?
Happy to go first.
Go ahead.
Mayor. On item 7, which is actually just on for pass for publication, I wanted to just give a little extra direction to Tom Pace and his team that are bringing this forward so that they can be prepared to answer this question on the 27th, I believe was when this is coming back. And that is, Tom, hopefully you can hear me. When this comes for the full hearing, if you could be prepared to tell us if each project has zoning that's compatible. So I guess in other words, to put that another way, I don't want to grandfather any incompatible uses in. So it should be easy, but I just wanted to make sure that question's answered before it comes back on the 27th. That's it and I'm happy to support it and move the calendar forward, close public hearing after everyone's done with their comments here. But I do think Jeff and Steve may have had additional comments as well.
Right. Okay, thank you. Councilman Warren?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to give a little bit of direction to staff to bring back options for stores that provide fresh food, meat, poultry, vegetables as it relates to the impact for proximity to other locations that might have a preclusion because they're within a certain radius of other stores. And so in certain communities where we have food deserts, I want to understand the implications. If stores come in, additional grocery stores, and it's very relevant to me because next week we'll probably be announcing another grocery store in District 2, and then working on a subsequent one as well. And I want to make sure that we can continue to try to stamp out the food desert issue in District 2. So I'd like staff to come back with options as it relates to providers of fresh food, meats, poultry, and produce. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Chenier had a comment, I believe, on item 5.
Yeah, just very quickly, I wanted to do a shout out to the County Office of Education and our staff. We've negotiated on really, we know that the arts can help in young people's challenges with mental health. This is a program that we'll be doing with CARES funding. Hopefully we'll be able to continue it after the first of the year, after it shows promise in a number of our high schools. So thank you to the County Office of Education for the work that created the program.
That's great.
I had a
comment on
comment
item?
on 17.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. First, on item 7, I'd just like the council to know we had a robust discussion about the tobacco retail item at Long Ledge, and it was a split vote. It was 2-2. So I expect, again, a pretty good discussion at council when it comes back. On item 17, I'd just like to say to staff, I'm very appreciative that we're going to LEDs for luminaires in residential areas. I wanted the council to be aware that I had some discussions with staff about the Kelvin range or the heat range of the lights that they purchase, because we use 4000 K on the mast arm lights, and we got substantial feedback. They are very bright and very white, and I think in residential areas, 3000 Kelvin or less is much more appropriate. Staff seems to have done a lot of research, and they are in agreement. So I wanted the council to be aware that the lights in residential neighborhoods will be warmer than those on the mast arms. So thanks to staff for looking into this and doing their research.
Mayor?
Very good. Councilman Guerra, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was on item 7 as well.
Go
I
ahead.
think Councilmember Harris, Vice Mayor Harris brought this up. We did have a good, robust discussion, and one concern that I'd like to have staff present next week or when we take up the item in chief is to make sure that there is a clear description of how this process will work. What I do not want to see is a backdoor way of permitting some additional smoke shops. We did a lot of work to try to get to this ordinance, and I think that was a concern about how this ordinance could be used. And definitely, we want to make sure we address the issue of food deserts, but I also don't want to make sure we end up in a situation where someone has a bowl of limes at the counter, and then that enables us to allow to permit smoke shops. So if the staff can present that next week, I'd greatly appreciate that.
There's a preview of the debate that will be upcoming for the next meeting. Very good. Okay, so I need a motion on the consent calendar, item minus item 21.
So moved.
Councilmember Hanson abstaining from item 6.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'm not sure who moved and seconded it.
Vice Mayor moved.
Alan
Okay.
Warren, second.
Alan Warren seconded. Okay. Let's call the roll on the consent calendar as described, please.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Ashby,
Yes.
Councilmember Warren,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson,
Aye.
Councilmember Chenier,
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Jennings,
Yes.
Councilmember Carr,
Aye.
and Mayor Kingsburg.
Aye. All right, now let's move to item 21. And again, we have heard the public testimony, but let's turn it over to Vice Mayor Harris, who asked that the item be heard separately. I know, Vice Mayor, you wanted to hear from our parking director here, Mr. Ironman?
Yeah, I think, Mayor, I'll make a couple of comments. First,
Okay.
the council should know that this is not a new project. It was started, as Greta Lachin said, over 2 years ago at the PBID. And so it's been discussed for quite a long time. And we've been certainly, I would say, mindful of loaves and fishes and their operations in developing this plan over the last couple of years. I believe that Ms. Cuppy has something to read into the record regarding this item, but at this time I'll turn it over to Matt Ironman, and then I'll have further comments when he's done. Matt, you there?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Matt Ironman, Parking Manager, Department of Public Works. The Parking Division is tasked with regulating parking throughout the city. We were approached by the River District over 2 years ago, looking at the current parking regulations throughout the district and how we could expand our parking management strategies throughout the district. With the anticipated growth of the district and the current projects underway, working together with the district and its stakeholders, we finalized the plan before you today. The objectives are to maintain roadway safety, restrict parking in unsafe areas, align current parking strategies, support smart growth, promote turnover of spaces, balance our parking supply. We feel that the district is in need for a balanced parking plan. With shared rideables and the Green Line accessible, we often experience long-term commuter parking clustered within the areas of the district. We often get complaints for semi-trucks using the streets for overnight parking since it's right off the Interstate 5. Investment is being made into the district, and parking management strategies should be applied holistically and comprehensively. And we've done this in the past. I can cite Broadway as being one of the areas that we looked at, changing over 900 spaces. We're proposing to regulate over 1,500 parking spaces to help support the safe turnover of parking within the district. I am available for any questions.
Mr. Mayor, can I just follow up briefly? So Matt, talk a little bit about North C Street. At this point, we're looking at not regulating the south side of North C from Ahern to North 12th. So that would free up, as I understand, 53 parking spaces and make them available to Loaves and Fishes, volunteers at Loaves and Fishes, Sister Nora's Place, and are restricting on that one block area only 23 spaces on the north side of the road. And the impetus to do that is partly to free up the area around Fire Station 14, which is often occluded by parking, both legal and illegal. But if we keep that clear, Station 14, until the new station is complete, I think we'll have a better shot at getting out of their driveway, which is a very difficult thing to effect. But maybe you could address flesh out a little bit more about why overnight parking is restricted.
Yeah, so Vice Mayor Harris, thank you. That is correct. We are looking to regulate the 23 spaces on the north side, and 53 spaces on the south side will no longer be a part of this ask tonight before you. We often get complaints about semi trucks that are parking in the district, that are taking up spaces, and kind of long haul truckers parking overnight. We also get complaints that people are clustering overnight time and staying overnight. So that would be we've done this in the past. We have a couple of areas that's no different than places within our cities, such as parks. We've done this around complexes before. We've done this in many of places throughout the city.
Okay, thank you for that, Matt. Last thing I'd like to say to council before it goes to discussion is that this is a long-term vision for the River District. As Greta Lachin mentioned, it is growing. DGS Township 9 is going to start building, Marisol Village, even the Hawthorne Suites. This was a comprehensive long-term look at how parking could be restricted to manage problems that have arisen, but also to support business. I think it's not overly restrictive. We did something similar in East Sacramento on Elvis. When we built new student housing, there were impacts from that were affecting businesses. So, regulating parking is a tool to make our streets functional for everybody. And I think that over the last 2 years, Matt Ironman and his team have come up with a good plan, and thanks to Stacy Hobermail as well. So with that, Mr. Mayor, open to questions.
Yep. Thank you. I'm going to ask a few questions, if I might. And first of all, to thank the staff, who always have a tough job balancing community interests here. And to say again, and I hope that the River District community, the business community believes me when I say this, I am very concerned about your plight and about the issue of overconcentration. I've heard it. And yet we are, as a city, are at the horns of a dilemma because until, my opinion, we act with even greater urgency to bring people indoors, we are going to have this same dilemma, not just in the River District, but in other parts of the city, where some parts of the community understandably want relief, but the relief does not come with any solution except moving people, remaining homeless, to a different part of the city. And that is my concern here. So I want to explore whether or not this ordinance, which I know has been worked on for a long time, is tailored narrowly to meet what I understand to be the objective, and that is traffic congestion and impeding businesses, especially during business hours. That to me would be the legitimate interest. Apart from this issue of, unless the issue really is about homelessness, which I fear that it is, and then we're in the horns of the dilemma. But if the issue is about ensuring that there is sufficient parking for the businesses during business hours, and that there is a problem freeing up those spaces for the businesses and or their customers, then I'm completely open to an ordinance and a change in the regulation. So let me begin with my questions. First of all, and I don't know whether Mr. Ironman or Vice Mayor or anybody else from the city staff, maybe it's the city attorney's office actually. Today, the county public health officer put out a new amended order that prohibits the city or the county from citing persons experiencing homelessness for, quote, using cars, RVs, and trailers as shelter during community spread of COVID-19. And so even if we pass this ordinance today, would we be able to implement it in light of the county order? Madam City Attorney, somebody from your office, or are you able to answer that one?
Do you mean the amended order?
The amended order.
We're still looking at that, Mayor. It doesn't appear to have addressed specifically, obviously, anything in regards to parking. It does talk about potential changes to the removal of certain items.
But if you're citing people who are parked overnight, for example, sleeping in their cars or their trailers, you're in essence telling them to go somewhere else. That's the purpose of the citation.
Yes.
Okay. And so it appears, and again, we need some time to analyze this, and maybe we need a little bit more time to analyze the ordinance in front of us, because if in fact the amended health order prohibits us from enforcing large parts of this ordinance, then maybe then maybe we ought to wait until the public order is is amended to allow a different set of choices. That's why it is relevant because.
So, Mr. Mayor, I have three thoughts on that. If you
Well,
don't.
Matt, Jeff, if you don't mind, I'd like to finish, and then I'm happy to turn it back over to you. Okay? I'd like to go through the remainder of my questions. So that's an open question here. And so then, again, if the question is, if the issue is, at least the main issue, that customers are not able to access, and I've heard this from some of the proponents of the ordinance, that customers of River District businesses are not able to access parking because there are many other cars and or vans or RVs that are parked in their spaces. When I look at section 1 of the ordinance, the 2-hour parking from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., what are the actual hours of business for the businesses located on the streets that are listed under section 1? Do the businesses have open out? Are they open to customers, for example, between 5 p.m. 5 p.m. And 10 p.m.? And then, of course, no parking from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So I assume that businesses are not open for customer parking between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Is that correct?
Yeah, so businesses.
Mr. Iron,
yes.
I think these are your questions, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a mix of businesses that are open at different times, and we want to make sure that the parking is clear for them during the daytime and when they get started. So if a business starts at 7 o'clock, if the employees get there at 7 o'clock in the morning, we would release those restrictions.
Okay, but 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. is the middle of the night. I mean, for example, at City Hall, we've had experience with this, and we came to a reasonable compromise that maybe didn't please anybody, which maybe meant it was sort of the right thing to do. We said that people who are homeless could sleep overnight, but then we would ask them to pack their belongings at, I believe, 6 in the morning? And ask them to, because people are coming to work in the City Hall, and that was a very difficult choice, but that's what we made. This goes well beyond that and says these cars and these RVs and whatever else, they can't park in the district from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The same is true of well, it's all section 1. No parking anytime. The second portion of this is no parking from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So it's really in the middle of the night. Our businesses, how many businesses in the River District are open for customer access between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.?
I think it's important to understand that the parking enforcement team is not going to be citing people that are in cars. We experience this all throughout the city, and we do not issue citations to people in cars. What we do is, if there's an issue, we refer that issue over to code enforcement, and they would follow the rules under the county protective order or the state protective order. What we're trying to do is...
I'm sorry, we're passing an ordinance here. We're passing a resolution here that says you're subject to some sanction, a citation or something, if you are parked on these various streets between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. So that means something.
Yeah, if their car is parked and unattended is what I'm saying from the parking enforcement perspective. That's how we do our enforcement throughout the city.
Oh, unattended. Unattended.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Unattended.
Yeah, so we don't cite vehicles that have people in them. We'll talk to them and advise them, educate them on the rules, but then we go about our business.
So have you done a survey of who these cars are that are parked all night that are unattended? Who owns them? Whose cars are they? What?
But the general concern is semis coming off the freeway and staying in the district. We have that same issue up in the north Natomas. So we have a lot of people that are staying, long haul truckers that are staying and parking unsafely in areas that typically aren't even allowed to park throughout the district.
So maybe I should ask Vice Mayor Harris then, I'm not saying you're the sponsor of the ordinance, but I know you're the district council members work very hard with the River District. I guess my question would then be, would you be open to an amendment that said that this ordinance does not apply to
Resolution.
that this resolution does not apply to anybody who is sleeping or sleeping in their car or residing in their car during any of these hours that are described in section 1 of the ordinance at these various streets?
So, Mayor, I'm happy to answer that. But first I want to say, look, currently we don't have a count of homeless people sleeping in cars in the River District. We assume that there are some, but we have no idea of the magnitude of the problem. Second, as you indicated, the county order would preclude us from enforcing against anybody who was homeless sleeping in their cars, so it's kind of a moot point there. Third, it's going to take a long time to implement this. There will be many signs to erect and so forth. So there's time here to find that alternative solution, which brings me to, we should move with all haste with Rick Jennings' idea of parking safe ground.
Well, we should, but in the meantime, I don't want to pass an ordinance a resolution that is not precise or that says something that we don't intend. So my question is, if this is only intended to limit the number of parked cars without people in them that sit all night, it's like vacant automobiles, okay, I kind of get that. Then why not be specific and apply the resolution only to that situation and specifically exempt from this particular resolution cars that are parked on these streets in this way at these hours with people that are in them?
Well, so my answer to that is there will come a point, hopefully soon, where we have a better place for those people to park that would be safer for them and would have sanitation available. Then we would have to come back and revisit and perhaps pass another resolution for overnight prohibitions in the River District. Look,
why don't you want to be precise
Mayor,
now?
I mean, there are overnight parking restrictions all over the city. Perhaps we should rescind them all or apply the same logic to all parts of the city. I'm not following the train of logic since the county order precludes us from enforcing.
Let me tell you what the logic here is. I, again, appreciate the plight of the River District and specifically the struggles that you as the council member, who's been a real advocate for doing better by this whole problem. So, take this in the spirit of respect. But in my opinion, I'm not, at least I am worried that this ordinance is not as transparent. The reasons behind it is not as transparent as it should be. It either is intended to tell people who are living in their cars or who are homeless associated with the car to get out of the River District, or it isn't. And if it isn't, then you should limit it to cars that aren't being occupied in some way by people. So I'm just trying to decide how to vote myself, and I could support I think, a resolution that said, you can't leave your car overnight in places, or in places that that are overrun with automobiles. Okay, that's rational. But if people are attached to them, then we're getting right to the heart of the homeless problem, and we are implicitly saying you've got to leave, and we don't have sufficient places yet to be able to take them. Now, maybe once Councilmember Jennings' idea and proposal comes to fruition about safe parking lots, then maybe this resolution would be, it with its breadth, would be more appropriate. But if you're not willing to make that distinction now, then I respect that, but I don't think I'm comfortable moving forward myself with its breadth.
So I understood, Mr. Mayor. I mean, so now I follow your reasoning, but I would say this first. This idea came forward 2 years ago, long before COVID and long before car camping was anything like a problem in the River District. So that was not the impetus for this resolution, not in any way, shape, or form. I mean, Matt's crew has been working on this for 2 years. Circumstances have changed a lot in the last few months. And so I just wanted to make it clear, the impetus for this is not homelessness oriented. It's not about moving the homeless. Again, the county order leads us, down that path where we can't disturb them regardless. But the overnight parking restriction is not just about homelessness. It's not about homelessness. As Matt said, it has to do with some unlawful parking that create other problems. He alluded to the semi trucks. That obviously doesn't happen completely throughout the River District. But it does seem to me that it follows that, we should pass then a resolution that every district in the city, that we can't preclude overnight parking because there may be a homeless person who needs that space until we have parking safe ground. This will take.
Maybe we should hear from let other members get into the debate here. They may be able to help us reconcile and figure it out here. Let's go to Councilmember Hanson.
Mayor, it's been fun to watch you and Councilmember Harris debate this. Some of the points I was going to raise were made. I would say that given my experience in District 4, I just want to underscore what Matt Ironman said is we've actually had a huge increase in the number of RVs and campers and others who've sought parking on our streets in District 4. And despite a lot of complaints from residents, homeowners, neighborhoods, even some activists who normally would be sympathetic to the people in them, we've seen a huge amount of tension created by the inability due to the county public health order to move some of these vehicles or to redirect them into other places. So I haven't seen the parking staff do what has been accused by some members of the public, which is to harass or to move vehicles. So I really do want to underscore that Matt Ironman is not just saying what they're going to do, but it is exactly what they have been doing. Number two, I would say, Mayor, it's always a delicate balance for how we manage some of these very challenging situations, and you know that. The River District has a disproportionate amount of its burden. I live very close to the River District, so I see it on a daily basis. If our fire trucks can't get out of a fire station, I think that's a very close nexus to the public safety imperative to ensure that streets are open and passable, which sometimes in the River District isn't possible. So I do think there is a public safety justification to this. And whether or not we work out something here, I just think that as the county has moved out of the purple tier, now the red tier, hopefully into the orange tier, the county public health order has to evolve with it. And a lot of folks currently who are unsheltered and living in vehicles, hopefully will avail themselves of the Project Room Key sites that we have, the future Project Home Key sites that we've worked so hard on some of the other sheltering options, the impact on communities from people living in vehicles is very pronounced. It's sometimes as bad or worse than some of the larger encampments, because these RVs will flush their sanitation systems into the street. There are other problems that come as well. So I don't think it's cut and dry. I'm sympathetic to Councilmember Harris and to you, but I'm not sure that a resolution around parking hours on actually what is a limited number of streets, if you look at the exhibit, is really the problem. And when I look at the exhibit, which I'm happy to put on the screen here and show you, if you haven't seen it, I'll just share it real
Have it.
quick. Why not?
It's in the staff report.
Yeah, but for the sake of the public, not everybody has it in front of them. Hopefully people can see it. The black is where there are already restrictions. I will tell you that that doesn't always mean that they're followed in those places. And the other areas are where they're talking about adding. It's not every street in the River District, it's some. And I think it's actually much more limited than the conversation has described. That's my perspective. I'm not sure if we're voting on this tonight or not, but I don't want us to end up causing more problems with fixes from the dais. So if we have to delay this a little bit, I think that might be easier, but I'll take your and Jeff's lead.
Okay. No, thank you, Steve. Just to clarify before I turn it over, first of all, I don't believe that the parking staff is going to take this resolution and they're going to start kicking people out. That isn't the, I know there's no malintent here, but we do have an obligation, as we do every week here, to make sure that we write the law in a way that is accurate and specific and consistent with whatever our intent is. And I'm just saying here that there is significant ambiguity. At a minimum, there is specific ambiguity about the breadth and scope of what this resolution would allow. And so if the intent is not to do what some of the advocates are worried about, and I'm worried about, then we ought to just say it. And if you want to keep the option open for how to implement this down the line, then okay, it just doesn't persuade me. But let's continue the discussion. Who is next, Madam Clerk? Ms. Ashby.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of thoughts. One, at the risk of getting myself in trouble with the other 4,999 employees in the city of Sacramento, let me just start by saying Matt Ironman is the absolute gold standard of city of Sacramento employees. And he is number one in my book. He does an amazing job. And I'm sure if he's worked on this for 2 years, it reflects his stellar reputation. I have two thoughts. One, I do have a similar problem with the large trucks, semi-trucks in North Natomas. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I am a favorite stop spot, and it does create a lot of problems. Part of what the mayor has proposed would make that hard for you to enforce, because often they're pulling over to sleep in their trucks. So if you wrap them up in the ordinance, that is a problem. So I would recommend, Matt, what I think I'm hearing is that you might get a little more time to refine this and work through some details with the mayor, which might be wise. I think if that's the case, one thing you might want to think about is how you could enforce against semis throughout the entire district, because it's not safe, it's not right, we don't want that. There are places they can stay close by that they can pay and be safe and follow the rules and not create a hindrance for us. So maybe you can separate that out from what the mayor is suggesting, which is sort of an unintended consequence of sweeping people up that are sleeping in their cars. I think that piece needs to be cleaned up. I really do. First of all, to be effective, and second of all, to be interpreted correctly here. And then my other thought is, I don't know that I got a couple calls from Loaves and Fishes today too, and you heard at least one of my constituents from District 1 who's, got a strong relationship with Loaves and Fishes. They're really concerned because even though there's been some relief there, Matt, in some areas, they're concerned that one of the areas where there isn't relief is right in front of Mustard Seed School, which is a spot where people go and park their cars and do stay while their kids are in school, or they're trying to be close to that school, or trying to be close to food at lunchtime for their kids. I'm going to tell you a story myself. I told the mayor this story earlier this week. I went out to Loaves and Fishes about 2 weeks ago at their request to come see how Mary House and some of the other women's services were doing during COVID. And I myself came across a young woman with two children, two daughters, ages 4 and 7. And she was also pregnant. And she was in her car and sleeping near Loaves and Fishes. I was able to connect her with one of the groups that you all have funded. And she's now in housing with her girls and they're thriving. But she's a perfect example of a person who's trying to stay close to resources for her kids and food, and we don't have a solution for that. Not that we haven't tried. We are trying hard. And Councilmember Jennings and Carr have found spots that have been not worked out, and we're going to keep trying. But I do think that maybe part of the discussion you could have if we're going to bring this back is to look at where else you might be able to carve out some space. I understand the concern on Station 14. I visit them often. I have not heard that concern before. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It certainly could, but I haven't heard it rise to the top of issues before. So maybe there's a way that we could limit the parking directly in front of 14, but not in front of Mustard Seed and not in front of the warehouse, and maybe not on some of the streets that don't impact the other businesses. River District is a big area. You know, you heard from the party concierge, that's not close. It's not an adjacent street. So we could potentially do a couple of different solutions that really make sense to help the businesses thrive down there, but also don't put people in an unnecessary predicament. And then finally, I'm just a little nervous and concerned about enforcement. And I hear what Jeff is saying and I hear what you're saying, but it's odd to pass a resolution that we don't intend to enforce, or that is at least in part right now unenforceable. So maybe if we do bring this back, I personally just need a little more clarity from the city attorney's office on how the enforcement works with the current rules that we're dealing with. So I guess those would be the points for me, and mostly just advice to you, Matt, on how I think you might be able to make it a little bit better in a short period of time and bring it back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Ashby. Councilmember Guerra.
No, Mayor, I think Councilmember Hanson brought up some of the points there that I brought up, but I will say that, you know, if this comes back, Matt, I think it needs to be clear that you aren't enforcing with folks who are in their vehicles, if that is the clear intention. But also I do acknowledge, you know, I have a significantly large industrial area, and we do have an issue with not just people parking, those who are with the big rigs, but leaving trailers, and that is a significant problem where we have a lot of trailers where they don't know where to store them or where they're going to put them, but they get placed all over the industrial area because it is unmonitored. So I know that's a real issue. So if those are the issues that are affecting the industrial area, we should get down to them. But we have had challenges with how to deal with also with folks who are living in their vehicle, and I have a lot of sympathy towards that situation. So I know Councilmember Jennings and I were working right before the pandemic on a couple spots and locations, and for the unfortunate situation of COVID, and now some of those spots are no longer available. But we do need to move faster on this temporary shelter ordinance that allows us to permit these safe parking lots that are coming through. So I hope that we can get that resolved. But Matt, I think those are the issues that I'd like to see. But to Councilmember Harris' point, we do have those existing problems that were pre-COVID, pre this circumstance.
So thank you very much. When are the ordinances coming back? The park, no, are these ordinances or resolutions? The parking lot resolution and the safe ground resolutions. Are they resolutions or ordinances? That would be an ordinance, not a resolution. Okay. I know
Yeah.
the difference, by the way.
Mayor, this is Tom Pace. We are planning to bring that to council on October 27th.
So very, very quickly. Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment,
Yes.
please? So
Yes, go ahead.
it seems that the concern is about the overnight parking piece. I disagree with you on that, but there are the other concerns that the River District has been working on to support their businesses for a long time. So I'd like to make a motion to move the staff recommendation and subtract the overnight parking piece as you suggested, probably to be brought back at a later time. But this is 2 years of work, and I hate to throw the baby out with the bathwater because of a concern that's largely COVID driven. But I think the good takeaway here is that we clearly have a need for safe ground for car campers. And I believe that strongly, and the sooner we get there, the better. It would alleviate the concern, and we can revisit the overnight parking prohibition in the River District at a later time once we get something up and running.
Okay, Jeff, I'm sorry, it's just a little hard to hear in here. I'm not, tonight, we're having a little hard time in the chamber. I just want to understand what you said, because I think this might resolve it for tonight in a positive way. Are you saying that you move the resolution but eliminate the overnight parking prohibitions?
Yes, for now.
I understand. It could be re-argued at another time. Okay.
And additionally, I did mention that this will light the fire under us to do what we need to do, which is a car camping safe ground.
Okay, is there a second on that motion?
Second.
I have a question, Mayor or Jeff.
Go ahead.
So first of all, I mean, it doesn't, then maybe you'll come back later on the semi truck or whatever piece, because that's not going to resolve it. It's going to take that piece out. And then secondly, what about the parking in front of Mustard Seed? They're really concerned about that, and that's not at night, that's during the day.
Well, boy, that's really micromanaging the resolution. Matt, do you have a solution off the top of your head?
Well, I did speak to Noel, the executive director, today, and we are going to be leaving 53 spaces open on the south side that will be unregulated. So those could be used during the daytime. It's the 23 spaces on the north side that we would be putting in the regulation for, and that will give the fire department the access that it needs.
So Angelique, I think certainly to my mind, that alleviates the concern. It's only walking across the street, and it's not a wide street, and it doesn't have traffic. So with 53 spaces available, I'm convinced that it suits the needs of Loaves and Fishes, Sister Nora's Place, Mustard Seed, that there will be ample parking during daytime hours. And you're right, it does not solve the semi piece. So Matt, you will have to do some thinking about coming back, to solve that particular conundrum. I'm just trying to get something passed here tonight that will actually create some positive change for the River District, and there has been a lot of work put into this.
Yeah, if I'm understanding the motion, I think I do. I think I'm prepared to support it tonight. I mean, to move forward, because I think my biggest concern was just as at City Hall, where people sleeping in their cars overnight, and that this, whatever the intent was, that it could have the unintended or even intended consequence of making it easier to move people out who have no other place to go. And with the amendment you suggest, Vice Mayor, I think that resolves my major concern. And I understand the mustard seed thing needs to be addressed, and the semi issue is still a real issue, but maybe that can be brought back as a follow-up here. Mr. Guetta, you had a comment?
Yeah, I think, glad to second the motion there, but, if this is okay with you, Jeff, also maybe some staff direction. And I don't know if it fits with this motion, but when the item comes back for safe parking, this is one where we can quickly get something moving forward in a safe place, in a safe environment. But the biggest challenge we've had is some immediate solid waste or bathroom location type of resources. So what I would ask is that if, when we come back on the 27th, I think it is that we also look at, are there some smaller pots of funds that could help us basically gear up some of these locations? Because the fact is, we're going to come into the darker seasons where it's going to get darker and it's going to be tougher to look at, to address these issues. And so, so that's my request, is that, is there something where we can gear some of these places? Because that's been the challenge, has been being able to look at sewer hookups or other ways to address the solid waste, the trash in the bathrooms.
So I'm not quite sure what you're asking of the motion there.
Is it just to include direction for staff to come back to see if there are small pots of money to get the safe parking off the ground faster?
Yeah, that works for me. I mean, that's what we're trying to affect here. And when safe parking areas are available, you know, we should create consistency citywide about overnight parking. The River District should not be the place that is wide open for overnight camping if we have safe ground. You know, there are nighttime prohibitions all over the city for various reasons. But, you know, the River District, I would ask as direction also that this comes back as soon as we do have car safe ground, that we can revisit this. And in the meantime, Matt, I do ask that you figure out more specifically where the semi-parking is a problem, because all of the areas in the River District, as cited in this report with overnight prohibition, are really not subject to the semi-parking.
I have a question, Jeff.
Yes, go ahead.
If we remove the proposed no parking 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., those streets that are marked in yellow on the map that we've been given, does that leave no restrictions on those streets? Is that your intent?
Matt, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I think the streets, they would be with no restrictions. The streets marked in green on the exhibit would remain enforced during the daytime. So I think we would definitely need to include some of those streets that are just 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
So you're going to do that when we come back?
Yeah, for right now, we'll just take off all the restrictions for 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and then if further restrictions are needed on that street, we'll bring that back.
Okay.
Okay. I know there was one caller who tried to get through 3 or 4 times, Ms. Jones, and couldn't, and I think it's important that we hear from everyone who tries. So let's hear from Nikki Jones, please.
Thank you. May we have our caller, please? Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hi, everybody. My name's Nikki. I know most of you, and calling from, you know, District 5 and calling as a person who has been trying to engage with y'all on this issue around people experiencing homelessness and since honestly 2011. And so I trust that y'all can recognize when I say that I appreciate tonight's conversation more than I've appreciated many in the past. And thank you to those of y'all who have been kind of speaking up about the concerns for folks who are living outside, which is, of course, my concern. These are my friends, these are my family, these are people that I know very well. And thank you to the Loaves and Fishes advocacy team and others who called in earlier. And just want to say that, like, I'm calling in now because I was cut off, but I want to recognize that probably many others were cut off, and want to recognize that there should be more space for them to access speaking to y'all and to the public. And you know, I want to say that what I have not felt vibes with tonight is the constant this conversation of 2 years of work on whose 2 years of work. The River District, which is a euphemism for the business improvement district in that exists on stolen Miwok land in the area near the confluence of the two rivers. And so what
Thank
we
you for your
see is
comments.
that
Your time is complete.
Okay,
Will
my
you make
time
your
is
final
complete.
comment?
Yeah, my final comment is that y'all should listen to people who this really affects, and that the businesses are the least of the affected, and that people who exist
Thank you for your
outside are
comments.
those affected.
Thanks, Nikki. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's call the roll on the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashby,
No.
Councilmember Warren,
No.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson,
Aye.
Councilmember Chenier,
Aye.
Councilmember Guetta,
Aye.
Councilmember Jennings,
Aye.
Councilmember Carr,
Aye.
and Mayor Steinberg.
Aye. That passes 7-2. Thank you.
Hey, Mayor,
Very important.
one
Very important.
logistical comment, if I could, really quickly.
Yeah.
The 27th of the month has a number of issues already booked. If we're bringing back Safe Ground, which there's a lot of work to do, we wanted to, at Long Ledge, we wanted to just make sure it went to the council for the discussion. I would consider either doing an afternoon session as well, and do, because you have Aggie Square that day and other issues. So this is a red flag.
All right. Let's make sure we look at the calendar and make sure that we've got enough time for all the very important items. I think probably makes sense, but let's talk about it, okay?
And just
Thank
one
you.
point of clarification, if I may. I know, Mindy, that you were going to read into the record the change on C Street on the south side. I just want to make sure that has made it into the motion.
Yes, your supplement was delivered this afternoon, but I believe you have further amendments to your resolution.
Okay.
The resolution was adopted as amended.
Thank you.
Mayor, could I just say one thing, please?
Sure.
And then we can move on. I'm sorry. I just want to say that my no vote was because I'm just disappointed that at every childcare center in the city, we free up parking in front of the school. And we just limited parking in front of the most vulnerable childcare center in the whole city. And that's why I voted no.
Okay. Well, I think just to be clear, I heard the parking director. I hope you're going to work that out. Is that?
That's correct.
You're going to work that out for Mustard
And that's why I
Seeds?
wanted to make sure. That's why I wanted to make sure that made it into the motion, the south side of C Street, as unrestricted for 53 spaces.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, Councilmember Ashby, that there's no misunderstanding here. Your vote is obviously entitled to your vote, and your concern is a compelling one. But is there an
They freed up-
understanding here about?
They're not coming back with parking in front of Mustard Seed. They're saying they're satisfied because they freed up parking across the street from Mustard Seed, and that should be sufficient. I've been a mom for 25 years. I don't like to cross the street with my little kids. That's why every childcare center in the city of Sacramento has pull-up parking right in front of the childcare facility. I'm not okay with just saying that the sites across the street are good enough. I understand that my colleagues are, but I'm not, and that's why I voted no. If you ever have to lift an infant in a child car seat out of the car and have another child in tow and try to drag them across the street, you would know what I'm talking about.
Okay, I know we've taken the vote here, but I don't want to move on here without, is there a way to address the
Mayor,
concern that the
there's
council
still
member has
2-hour
raised
parking.
about ensuring that the mustard seed kids and their moms can park without having to cross the street.
Mayor, Mayor.
Yeah.
So maybe what we can do is follow up with our team and the fire department to find out what all the impacts are there, the conflicts with parking in front and access to the fire station. And maybe we could bring something.
Okay, let's try to, the votes are the votes, it's fine. Everyone stated their position on the area is good, and it passed, but I'm asking for a report back on, that we try to fix this problem, okay? That she's raised, please. Okay?
Mayor, just to clarify, that street does have 2-hour parking even in front of Mustard Seed, according to the map that I put up earlier. That's all day. So, and there is no through traffic on that street. That is a street that is closed. And so it's not a typical street. I would just add that.
All right, well, let's try to make it even better and safer for the moms and their kids, okay? Good. Thank you. Item 28.
Good evening, Mayor Steinberg, members of the City Council. My name is Sini Malcassini with the Finance Department. The item before you is the public hearing for the renewal of the Franklin Property and Business Improvement District, which at this time, staff is recommending opening the public hearing. Upon the close of the public hearing, the City Clerk's Office and City staff will count the ballots and report back to Council as a consent item on October 27th with the tabulation results.
Yeah, I'm happy to waive the rest of the presentation unless we have any public comment. I'd open and close the public hearing and move the item.
Okay, and
I'll second that.
There is no public testimony, so let's call the roll, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashby,
Yes.
Councilmember Warren, Councilmember Warren,
I believe he got up.
we'll come back. Vice Mayor Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson,
Aye.
Councilmember Chenier,
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Jennings,
Aye.
Councilmember Carr,
Aye.
Mayor Steinberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Warren appears to be absent.
Okay, let us now move to item 29.
Good evening, Mayor, Madam City Clerk, and members of the City Council. My name is Jair Bautista with Engineering Services Division in the Department of Public Works. Before you this evening is an item with staff recommending adopting a resolution to vacate a series of public utility, emergency vehicle access, and centralized metal easements along and contiguous to the 5 driveways for the Entrada Development Project along Firestar Way. This vacation request is being made to facilitate the construction of single-family units in the newly created 20 lots and construction of a Class 1 bike trail. Wetland adjustments were recently recorded of said lots, and these alterations warrant the vacation of said easements. The Public Works staff, along with other utility agencies, support the vacation request, and furthermore, this project is consistent with the Sacramento 2035 General Plan and in compliance with the California Streets and Highways Code. That concludes this proposal, and staff will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, Councilmember Warren, any comments on this?
None from me.
Public testimony, is there a motion on the item?
I'm happy to close public hearing and move the item.
Okay, moved by Ms. Ashby, who's second? I'll second it.
I'll be happy to second the item, Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Jennings seconds it. Let's call the roll, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashby,
Yes.
Councilmember Warren,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson,
Yes.
Councilmember Chenier,
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Jennings,
Aye.
Councilmember Carr,
Aye.
and Mayor Steinberg.
Aye. Thank you. That measure passes. Item 30 is a procedural motioner. Madam Clerk, I understand that there's been a request for a continuance by the applicant.
That's correct. The applicant has requested that this item be moved to regular meetings, which would be November 10th. I do have one caller on the item also.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to, in terms of the applicant has requested what kind of a two-meeting continuance?
2-meeting continuance, correct?
And the next meeting would be, as I understand it, the 10th of November, but I know in talking to Mayor Pro Tem Ashby, the 10th, which would be November 10th, that's a 2 o'clock meeting.
That's correct.
Ms. Ashby has a request in terms of the date that this would be continued to. Ms. Ashby, Councilmember Ashby?
I do, Mayor. I just don't think the 10th is conducive to this hearing because of some complications that happened during the Planning Commission meeting. Want to make sure that there's ample time for people on both sides of the issue to speak. So I don't mind that the applicant has exercised their legal right for a 2-meeting continuance, but I would ask that we do it the week after that, which I believe is the 17th, the next scheduled meeting, so that we can provide enough time for folks to really participate, make sure that we have a good, solid, reliable hearing that's fair for everyone.
And that's because that's a 5 o'clock meeting. It would be easier for people to access, correct?
Correct, Mayor.
Okay, I think that's fine. That's appropriate. So let's make that the motion. Do we need a motion to continue or not?
That would be appropriate.
Okay, let's take a motion to continue then to the 17th of November. Ms. Ashby, do
Mayor,
you want
I
to
think
make
we have
a
a
motion?
speaker on the phone, I think I heard.
We
I'm
do.
happy
Go
to
ahead.
happy to make that motion though, but would want to hear from the speaker.
Okay, let's hear from the speaker first.
So we need to open and close the public hearing.
May we have the speaker, please? Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Thank you, Mayor Steinberg and members of the council. This is Mike Wiley. I am the president of the board of the Sundance Lake Homeowners Association, and I support the motion to continue this item to November 17th for exactly the same reasons mentioned by Councilmember Ashby. We have a great deal of number of residents that would like to comment on this item, so I appreciate the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiley. All right.
Okay, Mayor, having heard from him, I'm happy to close the public hearing and move the item.
And I second.
The continuance, okay. All right, let's call the roll on the continuance, please.
The motion on the table is to continue the item to 11/17 at 5 p.m. Mayor Pro Tem Ashby,
Yes.
Councilmember Warren,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson,
Yes.
Councilmember Chenier,
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Jennings,
Aye.
Councilmember Carr,
Aye.
and Mayor Steinberg.
Yes. Okay, that item is continued. We move to the last item of the evening, which is the discussion calendar item relating to storefront cannabis dispensaries. An issue we've talked a lot about, and tonight I think there's a very important step forward. So who is presenting on this?
Good evening. This is Davina Smith from the Office of Cannabis Management.
Smith?
Thank you very much. So tonight we have the ordinance resolution and the RFQ processes. These reflect the direction that we received on September 1st to design a process to award that opportunity to apply for 10 storefront cannabis dispensary permits to core participants through a competitive RFQ process. Now, the ordinance raises the number of storefront permits from 30 to 40 and provides for a council-approved process to offer those opportunities. The resolution and the process before you tonight document and describe the RFQ process itself. They also address council's previous concerns that only core participants be eligible for these permits, that the criteria that will be used in the RFQ will be developed with input from core participants, and among other things, will evaluate the training, the classes, and the workshops offered by the core facilitators and others that the applicants have completed in order to prepare themselves to operate a successful cannabis business in the city of Sacramento. That document will also say that says that the submittals will be evaluated by neutral, unbiased individuals with relevant knowledge and expertise who are not involved with the cannabis industry in Sacramento and are not employed by the city. That process also includes council's direction from January to require the permits to remain at least 51% core owned and core profit sharing, and that for at least a 10-year period from the time of permit issuance, and that the business be open within 3 years of being awarded the opportunity to apply for a permit. And I did want to point out one change from council's direction in January that we are proposing is that all 10 opportunities to apply for the permits become available at the same time, rather than releasing 5 this year and 5 next year, which was council's original direction. The reason for this is that we're already in October and we'll need time to prepare the RFQ if it's approved today. We'll need time for the core participants to have time to submit their qualifications for review, and we'll need time for the evaluators to review and score those submittals. We anticipate it could very well be into the new year before we have those final results. I did want to let the council and members of the public know that we've been working pretty hard to involve the core stakeholders as much as we can in this COVID environment. After the September 1st council meeting, we did have a core stakeholder meeting the next day where we discussed council's direction on the RFQ, and we requested input from them on what criteria they wanted to be evaluated by. We got a number of suggestions and we put them together into a survey, and then we sent that out and asked the stakeholders to rank that criteria that they thought was most important to least important. We got 81 responses, which was great. We found that the highest ranking criteria involved core participant status. Specifically, you either be a core graduate or course certified prior to a certain date. So that was one of the high ranking criteria. We also found that people wanted to be judged by their business plans and qualifications, right? Plan to succeed and sustain the business, their qualifications and experience, examples of previously completed successful projects. And they also wanted to be evaluated by their plans to help core and community members, either with dedicated shelf space, economic inclusion plans, similar items. The lowest rated criteria was related to the status of the applicant. For example, veteran, female, or a victim of police or gang violence. The other sort of areas of lowest rated criteria revolved around property and money. So people didn't want to be evaluated by a proof of minimum investment or proof that they had a lease or a CUP. They also didn't want to be evaluated by certain business qualifications. People thought that a resume, membership in cannabis or business organizations, or a letter of recommendation were least important. We did have another stakeholder meeting on October 8th where we discussed these results. They are actually on our core website if people want to look at them. And we talked about, in our question and answer sort of areas, the need to work from those highest rated criteria to develop the draft criteria that we would bring forth at future core meetings to discuss and get comment and input if the council approves this item tonight. We also discussed the need to collect demographic data of the applicants and all core participants, because that's good information for us to have and to kind of know who our core people are. And so, we've really been working with the core community to develop this and go forward. And I think they are definitely ready to have this process move forward. So I know it's getting late and I want to give lots of opportunity for public comments. So that's the end of my formal presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Smith, I know we've got 8 callers. And why don't we hear from the public, and then we will open it up to the City Council for questions and discussion.
Thank you. First caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council, for allowing us to have an opportunity to enter Sacramento's fast-growing cannabis industry and booming ecosystem. My name is Nawe Totome, and I am from District 6 and have been raised in Sacramento. And I am also a graduate of Sacramento's Green Equity from the Greater Sacramento Urban League, and president of Equilibrium, which is a cannabis retail company. We are thrilled and ecstatic of you guys all granting us 10 permits to be qualified core individuals to apply for the RFQs for the opportunity to open storefront dispensaries. We thank you, Davina and Zara, for speeding up the process at this time during this pandemic and this COVID, and still giving us the opportunity to push forward and develop vertical integration and to help us develop this ecosystem among ourselves and other cannabis businesses in Sacramento. We have been prepping our RFQ since day one of entering through the core program and with our instructors. Thank you. We keep preparing to submit our industry standards and achieve success into this economy to uplift our communities and our business economy in the city of Sac. We ask that our location availabilities be open with zoning and to increase our chances when we are given our opportunities to finding high foot traffic areas within Sacramento, downtown Sacramento, and cannabis zone, green zone areas. We also ask that we are scored on our skills, our experience, our plans, and our readiness. We thank you, and we are ready to move forward within this cannabis business. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Oh, yes. All right. Thank you. Hi, my name is Lanice Martin. I am the co-founder of the Hood Incubator, which is based in Oakland, California. I'm also the chair of Oakland's Cannabis Regulatory Commission. I was just calling in to say that I support the recommendations of the Moore Institute, which is a project of CORE under Malachi leadership. And I want to point out a couple of 3 points from my experience from supporting community advocates and regulators across the country, including California. One thing to remember is intersectionality. Regardless of the cannabis, business costs for Black and Brown-owned businesses, and then especially equity business in the cannabis industry, have higher costs, whether it be for insurance or leases. This pattern exists in the cannabis industry. And then on top of that, we also have different supply chain costs that also are related to grouping, or meaning one or more accounts associated with each other versus one. There's purchase power that monopolies get to have. And so I urge you to look at enforcing the one storefront or the one cannabis business policy that's already on the books. And then the other thing I want to point out is that, just by letting that law not be enforced, it's helping to enforce and to increase the disparate costs for equity businesses. Costs like testing and distribution. When you have bulk or purchasing power, costs are going down. And this is, all at the end of the day, this is about the patient. And these costs are being passed on to the patient. And we don't want to set up our situation where our equity operators, by nature of the market that they're in, are being forced to impact negatively the patient, so that they're going to obviously choose the cheaper retail spots. And then lastly,
thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Will you make your final comment, please?
Yes. Lastly, most jurisdictions, all the jurisdictions to date, have taken multiple rounds at getting the dispensary rounds right. So I urge you, even though logistically getting 10 out together would be smooth for the administration, I urge you to think about not doing that.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Thank you. Good evening, City Council. I represent veterans, military veterans. This message is for military veterans, small businesses, and the minority communities of Sacramento. The equity program was initially adopted to create paths for military veterans, small businesses, and minority communities to enter the cannabis industry. But instead of serving these communities, City Hall has made this process exclusive to low-income and people arrested or convicted of a crime prior to 2011. City Hall fails the very communities it serves by requiring core participation. Here is a very pertinent post from the Cannabis FAQ on the city's website. The FAQ asks, what is the equity program? The answer, the equity program was adopted by the City Council on November 28, 2017 to create a path for small businesses, women, and veteran-owned businesses and minority communities to enter the cannabis industry. That is verbatim. Now, folks, Let's be fair, this initial adoption does not discuss being low income or arrested for a crime. The selection process is inherently discriminatory because not only does City Hall intentionally and unlawfully deny every military veteran's right and privilege to sell cannabis in the city of Sacramento, but this process excludes every one of the communities it was created and committed to serve. If you are a military veteran, or if you feel like you've been unfairly excluded from this process, or you just want to stop this sham today, contact us at 916-538-4215 or go to www.savecannabis.today. That is 916-538-4215 or go to www.savecannabis.today. TODAY. This selection process, in the minimum, should give priority first and foremost to military veterans, to small and women-owned businesses and minority communities. Priority should not be reserved just for the outlaws. This equity program is exclusionary, discriminatory, and this very process stifles public dissent.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Will you make your final comment, please?
This equity program is exclusionary, discriminatory, and this very process stifles public dissent. It must be stopped. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Greetings, Mr. Mayor and council members. This is Malachi Alman of the Institute for More. As the city makes its great progress on awarding 10 dispensary licenses tonight, it is also imperative to recognize the consistent damage that is done when taking piecemeal, isolated, and poorly timed approaches that further delay and oftentimes deny justice. We urge the council to provide direction tonight to end this practice. It's been 3 years since CORE was adopted, and the policy goal is 50% of dispensary licenses, not 25. It's now time to give direction for staff to come back with CORE opportunities later to achieve scale and serving the market with multiple locations in the same way as the existing dispensaries who violated city code go unpunished and enjoy a monopoly. We need these solutions to combine the issues of state and local funding, core funding requirements for the current general operators, land use, priority processing definitions, and more. Aside from providing staff direction tonight, our 3 requests on item 31 are that we collect voluntary shareholder data on race, ethnicity, and gender, have a city attorney review before opening a public comment period on the draft RFP that is written, and then finally create opportunities for social enterprises in the RFP. You're now moving to 10 licenses altogether in 1 year, so we believe these are reasonable requests. We ask you to use your power to give us a reason to believe that economic justice will be real in Sacramento. Thank you so much for all that you've done so far.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Frank A. Louie with the Sacramento Asian Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Sacramento Asian Chamber Grow Green program, we support lifting the cap of storefront dispensaries from 30 to 40 and dispersing the new permits via RFQ to core participants as a good first step towards addressing the social equity for storefront opportunities. We're looking forward to working with the city on the RFQ process going forward. It would be helpful to understand the mayor and council process going forward in setting the policy criteria for the RFQ. There is a lot to consider. For one example, it has been brought up that CORE program does not distinguish between Class 1 and Class 2 applicant qualifications. It would be difficult to argue that the effect of actually being incarcerated versus living in certain zip code is the same. So you might want to consider if and how to evaluate various qualifications of the applicants. On behalf of all CORE participants, thank you so much for making these dispensary licenses available. We are excited about the opportunity and remain available to help inform the criteria process going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Greetings, everyone. thank you, Council, for your time, Davina, as well. Glad to see all of your wonderful faces, and then also all of the wonderful advocates that are in the community. I wanted to really echo the sentiments of Frank Louie from Sacramento Grow Green and Malachi Min from the Institute of Moore. As a social equity member who represents both of the Greater Sacramento Urban League and the Asian Chamber, we social equity members are ecstatic for 10 licensed storefront retail licenses coming out this year. However, moving forward, we would like to see the City Council establish a cannabis oversight committee. It's actually very, very awesome that we had a member from the a cannabis regulation commission from Oakland, Ms. Lenice Martin from the Hood Incubator, actually on our public comment. I think that we should take a page out of San Francisco. They have an oversight committee. Oakland has an oversight committee. I think it would really allow the community members such as, Malachi's, the Franks, Tiffany Sharps, a lot of the advocates in this space who are left kind of with question marks after these meetings. It would allow them to be able to get that information and disseminate that information to the community. And I feel like that would give us a lot less moving dates. But just wanted to thank you all for getting these licenses out. Really, really looking forward to the RFQ process. And we are already having social equity workshops with investors, with some of the social equity members on how to build up our own RFQ processes. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your call.
Thank
Next
you.
caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hello, Mayor and council members. Eddie Franco, Legislative Liaison with the California Cannabis Industry Association and proud resident of District 4, calling in support of item 31. Since our creation in 2013, CCIA has been proud to consider social equity a central part of our mission. For too long, though, policies to improve social equity have stalled at the local level. And as a result, we've seen a disparity across the state in how localities have been handling their social equity programs. For example, though Sacramento's core program has made a lot of great strides in so many ways, the current cap on storefront has prevented core applicants from being able to open actual dispensaries. As a result, not a single one of Sacramento's 30 operating dispensaries is core owned or operated. This means not one of our 30 dispensaries is Black owned or operated. Without raising the cap, it's nearly impossible for Sacramento to meet its goal of 50% cannabis licensees being core owned. We believe that this ordinance amendment is a great and strong step toward bringing greater equity to Sacramento's cannabis industry. I want to particularly applaud staff's decision to follow an RFQ process that includes blind lottery type selection of qualified applicants rather than an RFP process that could possibly leave room for favoritism, a problem that we've unfortunately seen in other jurisdictions. We do ask that as council considers future changes to strengthen this great core program, there's continued transparency and work with stakeholders throughout the process. We furthermore are hopeful that, obviously, depending on how Proposition 16 shakes out, the council makes particular considerations for Black core applicants in Sacramento. Again, not a single one of our 30 dispensaries is Black owned or operated in the city. Again, though, we are super proud to support item 31. Thank you so much for all the great work that's been done by staff and all the stakeholders involved, and we request not vote on this important amendment. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you. Is there other testimony?
There are no more callers on this item.
Okay. I understand, though, there may be a possibility that folks are trying to call in and have gotten accidentally dropped through the technology. Do we know, or?
We're not able to verify that people are being dropped. We do close the queue.
I don't mean dropped intentionally. I just mean the
Correct.
technology is.
There's no indication that the calls were disconnected in any way.
Okay.
If they were calling the wrong queue, for this item, it was dial 5 to make public comments on this item. And like in council chambers, after the first couple of speakers, we don't take any more speaker slips, so the queue is closed.
Okay.
So the only remaining queue open is to dial 6 to make public comment for matters not on the agenda.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the clarification. Let's turn it over to the city council here. Councilmember Chenier, you want to go first?
Sure. I'll be brief. We've had a lot of discussion about this. We at Law and Ledge at the council on numerous occasions. I think the staff has done a good job in doing this and listening to the council, particularly around ensuring that core members get this. A couple points I'd want to make from conversations we've had. One is even if we're doing 10, we're not going to have 10 new dispensaries open on the same day. Folks have to get their CUPs, they have to find their facilities, get their backing, all of those items. So I would envision it will take at least a year, if not a couple of years, for all of these potential licenses to be fulfilled and dispensaries to open. There's a lot of challenges to that. We also had some concern from some individuals about the other pieces, the finance and backing. I trust that the core members, once they become eligible and receive a potential CUP where they can move forward, they will really have the leverage to find the investors that they want to find to work collaboratively with them. I think we're in a good place here. It's taken a long time, and certainly COVID has, like everything else, has delayed what we're doing. But the idea here was always to increase the equity portion of our cannabis industry. This adds actually 33% more dispensaries. We know that core graduates, and I believe there are over 150 core graduates, many of whom, and we went over this last time, I think there are 38 currently in business with another larger number also waiting on their business operations permits. So we're moving forward on all these pieces, and I just want to commend staff. They've taken everything that we've said as a council, put it to paper. We will, like everything else in cannabis, have to probably tweak these things as we go forward and learn about best practices, but I think we're in a good position, and I'm happy to move the staff recommendation.
Okay, it's moved. Councilmember Warren, I know you have a comment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank, first of all, staff for doing the work to get this on the agenda. Councilman Chenier and his, continued leadership on the marijuana issues. And really, Councilman Carr, who was one of the early advocates of a more inclusive marijuana economy in the city of Sacramento, and had suggested that this item be worked on and brought to council a couple of years ago. I am also on a slightly different variant of this topic. Wanted to ask the city attorney if we have concluded with our work on the Nexus study that is really intended to help deal with the impacts and then also the benefits that are flowing into these heavily impacted communities prior to the legalization of marijuana and then as a result of us making it legal. So if we've gotten clarification on the Nexus study, and if not, just what the status is. But I'm going to support this tonight. I think that it is time that we allow others to participate. And so again, I want to thank city staff and my colleagues on the council. But I would like to get clarity on the Nexus study that are intended to look at the impacts of these heavily impacted communities, heavily affected communities.
Okay, that could be part of the, well, city manager, you have something on? Okay. Go ahead, yes, go, please.
Councilmember Warren, yes, the work on the Nexus study was completed and reported back to council. And then the next steps would be for the permit holders to provide the necessary information to show how they will individually address any impacts to the areas in which their businesses are located. That would also apply to any new permittee holders.
So the report that we last saw is the final report for the Nexus study?
Yes, and I believe that the council took action and then directed staff to move forward with it.
Yeah, I thought there was some additional work that needed to be done. You know, there were some items that came up at the council meeting that needed further clarification, and so
We can follow up.
maybe we can check the records. Yeah, and then also I would just also like to request that the city auditor be a part of that process to help validate or to help us to make further decisions and modifications as it relates to either us hitting the mark or not. I mean, if we're not, then obviously we have to look at some modifications to the actual revenue flowing back into the communities which produce the marijuana, as well as the operators and their commitments to the communities and local groups that they've either spoken of or contracted with, and or the tax that was supposed to happen and where those funds are going, that are being charged to the marijuana operators.
So, Councilmember Warren, this is something I'll follow up with the city attorney on, and we'll put it on our follow-up log.
Very good. Thank you so much, Mr. City Manager, and thank you, Susanna.
Okay, Councilmember Guerra, then Councilmember Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll go ahead and second the motion. I also want to thank staff for their work in reaching out to the applicants. I've spoken to a number of the core applicants themselves as well, some who are from my district and also live in the district and want to work in the district. And so I think we've got a good process forward of how do we encourage that communal support, that neighborhood support, and focus on bringing some diversity. So I do, want to recommend, I don't know if it's direction, but that as the RFQ goes out, that we continue to work with the stakeholders to get input on how the RFQ is drafted. So if Councilmember Chenier, if that's okay as part of direction of the motion, I want to make sure that we're working in lockstep with our community partners.
Yeah, that's fine. My only caveat, council member, and this is really a question for Davina, that process has been held up for a long time. So I know that she has reached out with stakeholder meetings and some other things. Maybe what she could do is just send us a little bit of a write-up on all the outreach that they've done and what they propose to do going forward. I don't think, setting up new formal processes at this point is okay, but Davina, if you could do that, let's keep it fairly simple and send that to everyone on the council so we all know what's happened. Does that work for you, Eric?
No, that's good. That's good. I want to make sure that as we're going and developing this process, we have our community stakeholders with us. But I agree. I mean, the longer we wait on this, the less opportunity there are folks who are ready to get into the business to be able to reap the economic opportunities. We're holding that progress back. So glad to second the motion.
It's not like we move quickly on anything. So
Yeah.
let's get this.
But yeah, no, and then continue to move forward. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Carr.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Davina, I know this has been a very difficult process for you. I understand the amount of outreach that you have been doing to bring in all the voices into this process. And this process seems to be one that no matter what we draft, someone wants to make some changes to it and wants to modify it in some way. And I'm sure that we can do that. We can spend the rest of the year modifying, changing happy to glad, wordsmithing. But I, for one, am ready to move forward with this process. And if you would like to develop a advisory committee, I would leave that up to you. if you want to formalize that process, or if you want to keep it like it is and have everyone come, I would tell you if you select a committee, there's going to be people who are not satisfied that they are not a part of the committee that you selected. So be careful with that one. I'm happy to move this forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. We have Councilmember Jennings next.
Thank you, Mayor. Davina, I just want to congratulate you and your staff on a great job done. You could hear in the voices of those who called, who are graduates of the core program, how excited they are for this new process. We're in a much better place than where we were the last meeting, and what we were talking about compared to then to now. We're in a much better place, and I'm happy that 10 permits will be issued at the same time as opposed to 5 and 5. And I understand Councilmember Chanier's point that we maybe won't see all 10 until the next 2 years, but I'm happy that we're now in a position to be able to put it all out at this point in time. So I heard you say about core members' input as it relates to the RFP or the RFQ. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Right. So
Yeah,
I think that
they did a survey, they had a stakeholders meeting, and I'm sure there'll be additional outreach.
right, and I think that's critical, is to make sure we're listening to those who are really going to benefit from this whole process. So I just wanted to say good job. This process is going to continue to grow, and we're all going to learn on a ongoing basis. We have now definitely have a process that has more inclusivity in it than we've ever had before as these new members come in. I don't want to live in a city where I can't say we have one African-American dispensary in my city. That's not the kind of city I want to live in. So this changes that. And I think this process will be one that will be continually improved as we go on because of your work and the work of our core members giving input to it. So again, good job. I'm happy to support this item.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hanson.
I just wanted to also echo the comments of Rick Jennings and others that you've done a good job taking this feedback and turning it around. Thank you. I hope the picture or the background is the place you're going to go celebrate when this is all done. But I did have one just minor question, which came up earlier today, is after the first 5 licenses come out, will there be a process to review how that went and decide on the next steps for the subsequent 5?
So at this point, Councilmember Hanson, we're suggesting that all 10 be opportunities be available at one time for this RFQ. So as opposed to doing 5 and then waiting a period of time and doing a second set of 5, we're suggesting all at once.
And what if you don't get enough applicants that meet the criteria or whatever? Do you anticipate just that you'll have sufficient call for those that you'll all time will go? Because I know there was a concern about adding too many all at once, but maybe the ramp up period.
Yeah, I think the concern is if they were all going to go sort of at the same time and process at the same time, but we know that some people are more prepared and less prepared, and that they've got their group and they're ready to go, and we know other people are kind of still working through that process. Both of those submittals for qualifications are going to be equally valid because we're not going to be looking at sort of the resources that people have to put into the project. But I think that's something that is in your council's hands. If you want us to do 2 different RFQs, one later on, we can certainly do that. I think we're going to be talking with the city attorney about, and our core community, of course, about sort of is there a cutoff? As you said, if out of the 100+ submissions that we get, if there's not 10 that are good, can we hold off issuing and just sort of do another RFQ in the future? So I think that's something that we're looking at. We do anticipate that we've got a really talented and passionate for community. And we think that there will be, honestly, probably 20 or 30 really, really, really good, submissions. And I think it's going to be sort of an embarrassment of riches situation, which is great for us. So that's my view, but it is in your council's hands.
Yeah, thank you, Davina. I guess given that, back to the question that Eric and Rick and others have asked, I think in the lead up to the release of the RFP, getting as much feedback as possible on that would be helpful in ensuring the outcome is strong. So thank you. I'm happy to support this.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment or two. First of all, I really want to thank both the staff. I think you've done an excellent job. I also want to thank the advocates as well, because it's important that we push each other, but it's also important that we see real progress for what it is here. Because if you remember when we debated this, there have been so many chapters of this, I don't remember which one was which, but it was a lot of months ago. And there was a lot of varied opinion among the staff, among the advocates, and among the council members about how many additional dispensaries we should make available, given the concern about oversaturating the market. And there were some who said, and they were all legitimate, rational arguments, we should start with 2 or 3. Then it was 5, and you're right, Councilmember Carr, pushed harder, and we've ended up here with 10. That's a big deal here. And the work that we have done since together has really refined it to give me much more confidence that this is really going to be core driven. When 51% of the ownership interest has to be held by one or more of the core program participants. I mean, that is a significant criteria here. What the evolution of this, though, allows us to do is to continue working with each other and, yes, pushing each other to make sure that the first 5 or 10, and it probably will move, it may move slower than we think, based upon ensuring that we get applicants who are not only willing but ready to succeed, that we work together to make sure that these 10 are great successes. And I think I feel much more confident that that's actually what's going to happen based upon the iterative work that has been done on this over the last year. So I'm not saying we should ever stop and smell the roses for a long time, but I do think it is important that we say the work is never done, and it's certainly not done to address equity. It's never done. But this is a significant advance, and I know there are some who from the beginning have called for 50%, and that's a very worthy aspiration. This is 25%. That's half of the half, because you're adding 10 to a base of 40, or at least maybe it's 20%, I'm sorry.
No, base of 30.
10 over 30, so that is, so help me out with the math here.
It's an increase of 33%, and it will be 25% of the total.
Okay, right. Close enough.
Yep.
It's a big advance. So let's call the question here and move
Mayor,
forward.
can I speak really quick? I'm sorry. I think
Oh, I'm
this
sorry.
is handing
Yes,
the-
go ahead.
That's okay. I can be a little tough on the marijuana issues. Don't like to vote on them. Don't like to increase the numbers. Don't like it at all. I think we have too many, oversaturation, the whole thing. But I'm going to vote yes tonight for 2 reasons. One, because the process is vastly improved from the last time that this was presented to us. And 2, because it's time to stop punishing the core participants who are waiting for us to release this process for them to be involved, because what happened before them isn't correct. And I just think it's really important to say this. We have kind of a mess on our hands with the existing program. It's not anybody's fault. It's just where we are. There are monopolies. There are people that own multiple units and various kinds of marijuana industries in our city that violates actually our own rules, and we're not enforcing it. And we need to figure out a way to do that. I would love to see more core participants, but I'd also like to see the number of people who own more than one dispensary or families that own more than one dispensary be held accountable for those numbers so that we can, on the natural, increase the number of core participants as opposed to having to add more and oversaturate our city. So I'm going to vote yes because it's time to move this forward and because you've done a great job of working together to bring us a better process. But I really want to see us go back and clean up the 30 dispensaries that we already have. People should not be allowed to have ownership in more than one. That is the rule. We need to make the rules clear and bright, and then we need to enforce them. And then as new licenses become available, we should either reevaluate whether or not the market is oversaturated and we should get rid of those licenses, or if we should re-enter those licenses back into the stream of commerce and put core participants at the top of the line. So that's my position still.
Okay, thank you. There is a motion and a second, and let's call the roll.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Ashby,
Yes.
Councilmember Warren,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson,
Excited that there's probably a unanimous vote for the first time ever on a cannabis item, so yes.
Councilmember Chenier,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Jennings,
150% yes.
Councilmember Carr,
At long last, yes, yes.
Mayor Steinberg.
Yes. That passes unanimously. Excellent.
Good job, Davina.
Members, good work, everybody. That ends the formal agenda. Is there public testimony on items not on the agenda?
I have 2 callers in the queue, and I do have board and commission appointments to read in the record.
Why don't you do that first, then we'll take the public testimony, then we'll take council ideas and comments.
Thank you. So board and commission appointments to the Housing Code Advisory and Appeals Board, Barry Boyd, Brandon Fisher, and Vern Gore. To the Preservation Commission, Ryan Miller and Alice Valenia. To the Sacramento Heritage Inc. Board of Directors, Jose Esparza, Claire Flynn, and Megan Repka. Okay, so can we have our first caller for matters not on the agenda?
Okay. Please.
Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hi, I'm a core graduate, and I listened to the meeting, the complete meeting tonight, and read over everything. I'm very concerned about this proposed criteria and what you guys are considering, the way to select this RFP process. And 2 things that were important that wasn't discussed tonight, which had to do with the survey. The majority of the core graduates actually said that it was very important that it's a core graduate, not core certified. This criteria is actually generalized. It does not say anything about core graduates. The second thing is that the second thing that I want to bring to your guys' attention was that there was a cutoff date that was also suggested that was voted very important, that was the second highest rated out of the whole survey. So 2 important factors aren't being there. I believe that this is a loophole. It appears to be somewhat of a loophole to allow people to that. I don't know why. I mean, you can think of so many different reasons why these 2 things that are so important on the survey. I think I don't know. I tried to get in earlier. It'd been nice if it was posted that you have to call in by a certain time to be able to comment. But you know, I am a core graduate. I've been through this. In the process of this. I've been in the process and you know, and I have sweat equity. I graduated in the program. I really feel like those things should have been in here, and I don't know why. The other thing that's alarming to me is that there's been mention, a lot of core graduates have asked, well, why is it not a lottery? Why is it not a lottery? We were talking about a lottery back then. We said the first 5 were going to be lottery. We were going to give an opportunity for people to be lotteries in the next 5. Now I understand and I'm in agreement for 10. Okay, that's fine. You know, but I want to make clear I am also in agreement to make it sure that it's.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Will you make your final comment, please?
I just urge you guys to look at the survey results, making sure that they are doing the right thing, and
Thank you for your
making sure
comments.
that our voice is heard.
Thank you. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hello, yes, my name is Lambert Davis to the Bay and Back Cheesecakes. Just returning back from an event where our cheesecakes, the pumpkin swirl, went viral. And as I come back to town, I focus in on the city council. I am urging the city council and the mayor to prove to me about this accountability equity act. Our company to me is the litmus test for that. It's also the litmus test for the city manager's office. We are requesting that somehow you organize an investigation and try to get us funded. We're going into the pre-holiday, pre-election holiday move. We're ready to go. We're also interested in talking to Mr. Warren about renting out a building. His issue of owning buildings is going to work for him because someone from El Paso Heights now is interested in leasing a building. So we hope that people will speak up for us. You know, we're natives from Del Paso Heights. Our roots run as deep as 1946 when our parents moved here. So I hope and pray that you consider funding us, because $89 million is a lot of money, and if To the Bay and Back Cheesecakes doesn't get anything, then there's something terribly wrong down there at the city manager's office and really the city council. Everybody knows who we are. I come down to city council meetings probably more than anyone, and I don't feel like coming down there after cooking, but I come down there because I'm standing on principle. This is a principle issue, and the Better Business Bureau has just endorsed us. And that can be...
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Will you make your final comment?
Yeah, cut the check loose to the Bay and Back Cheesecakes.
Thank you. I have no more callers.
Okay, thank you. Council ideas and questions. Councilmember Hanson.
I just wanted to take a minute, Mayor. Your most experienced and what I would call valuable intern had an 80th birthday today. Dennis Mangers, Denny, as most of us call him. And last night, you and I and about 150 other people celebrated his 80th with a virtual celebration supporting the Friends of Sacramento Arts. And I just wanted to, on behalf of the mayor and council, wish Denny an official happy birthday today. I think, Mayor, you've gotten a lot of great support from him, as have many of us through his mentorship and wisdom, not only on the arts, but on many other things. And he's truly a treasure to the city and to the community. And so happy birthday, Denny. And but although he's 80, I told him he could pass for 45. And, you know, at least 50 for sure.
One of the greatest Sacramentans. Yes, a treasure and a dear friend. Let us move now to the next member. Who do we have next? Councilmember Ashby.
Thanks, Mayor. Also, happy birthday, Denny. Wonderful human being. Love that guy. Two quick things. One, last weekend, I hosted a drive-through voter registration event, and I just wanted to report back to you guys that it was magnificent. I did it in partnership with the football coach of my local high school, Coach T, and we targeted young people, both to pre-register 16, 17-year-olds and to get 18-year-olds registered. And I wanted to just take a minute to tell you guys about this because you could do it too. It's super easy. We made a QR code, just like you see in all the restaurants now when you show up, so that you don't have to touch menus. We actually hung that QR code on banners in and around Natomas, and they're still up. If you click on that QR code, it takes you to the Secretary of State's webpage where you can register to vote. So our hope is to just really increase voter registration in our area, and particularly around that young 18 to 24-year-old category that was the least likely to vote in the last two elections. So really appreciate Coach T and Indercom High School for partnering with me. And Adidas gave us these awesome vote shirts. So that was a great event. And I just want to encourage you guys to look into that too. This weekend, Deanna Reed, the all-star in my team, will be hosting a virtual drive-through pumpkin patch from 9 to noon in the North Natomas Regional Park. So folks can drive through and we will give the kiddos in the cars pumpkins. I'm sure it will be a big hit like everything else Deanna does.
Thank you very, very much. Who is next?
Councilmember Warren, then Chenier, then
Go ahead.
Jennings.
Very good. Thank you very much. A couple of announcements for me. First of all, I want to say thank you to some excellent work by our Sacramento PD. I know all of you have heard that we lost the life of a young lady in our community recently, and I want to report that the police have now made an official arrest and have named the suspect. And so I think this is a step in the right direction for the healing process, for the family. In addition to that, I want to thank the mayor, vice mayor, and the mayor pro tem for joining me in the district last week to really address some of these community issues that are plaguing some of our tougher inner cities, and to really show support for the types of improvements that are needed in the community. Several things were announced at the meeting, of which I'm going to be coming back to council for full authority for, but I am also pleased to announce that the city manager in his own authority has already started the process for one of the most immediate plans that we have for Mama Marks Park, which are permanent cameras in the park. That is already underway and should be complete within 30 days at Mama Marks Park. We also have some other improvements that are scheduled to start taking place very soon as well. And I will be bringing forth a list of items for District 2 parks that we discussed at the press conference last week. And again, I was very pleased that on short notice, I was able to get the vice mayor. The mayor was already locked in and had been engaged in the community. And then also Mayor Pro Tem as well, who reached out to me to see what she could do to be very helpful in that situation. And so I just want to say thank you to my colleagues. And I think Sacramento showed up to help this family take a major step in the healing process. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Warren. Councilman Chenier?
Thank you, Mayor. Two items kind of for the city manager, and first one is for the city manager, Mike Jasso. I think that we have done a really good job on the CARES funds, appropriating dollars. I think that there will probably be funds that are not expended by the end of the year for various reasons. Some of the folks that are the grantees aren't able to do what they thought they would be able to do, or time is running short. That, along with the fact that one of the folks who kind of got caught in the process for various reasons was Daryl Roberts and the Roberts Family Center and the Freedom Schools that they run, which really do wonderful things for a lot of young people in multiple districts. So I'd like to see if there are funds left, which we don't want to leave money on the table at the end of the year. If there are funds left, and understanding that the Roberts Family Center is now partnering with Sierra Health Foundation as their fiscal agent to take care of some of the challenges that occurred. If there is money available to fund the Freedom Schools, and that we're looking for $110,000, and I believe they've gone through a lot of the process already. So Mr. Gasso, if you could take a look at that and see what we can do about it. The second piece I want to talk about briefly, this is for the city manager and Hector Barone, is this council with some dissent or a lot of dissent passed a resolution around going for a small starts grant for the light rail extension in the West Sacramento. RT also passed a resolution around the same thing, but what we did and what RT don't quite match up. So I'd like to provide some direction for the city manager to work with West Sacramento and RT to see if that can be worked out, and then bring a report back to council. What we need to do to move the process forward. So those are my two items. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Jennings?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got 3% left on my battery, so I'm going to be quick. My name was mentioned a lot tonight as it relates to the safe parking lot proposal that I put on the table earlier this year and maybe late last year. And what I'd like to do is get the legal team and our parking division and our code enforcement, homeless department, and SHRA together to have a strategic discussion about locations that are possible for this kind of endeavor, and also a timeline and strategic action plan as is it the right time for us to move on something like this now. There are a tremendous amount of people who are sleeping in their cars, and they're sleeping in an unsafe environment. If we don't provide a safe environment for them, then something's going to happen that none of us is going to be happy about. So I just want to kind of bring the idea back and see if it's possible that we can develop a strategic action plan that'll tell us the locations, the timeline, and the financial support needed in order to make something like this happen, so the people who are living in their cars can be in a safe environment and have sanitation available to be able to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, on all of these creative solutions that the members have brought forward, and our staff's working hard, but we've got to get this stuff done. I mean, we actually have to get it done, because too many months just pass, and the problem continues, obviously. So first, I guess, is the ordinance, which we will hopefully get done on the 27th of October, as I understand it, or at least consider it on the 27th of October. And then maybe after that, we can actually define an implementation timeline. That would be a very, very important thing to do together with the city manager and his team. Mr. Harris, Vice Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. First, I'd also like to wish Danny Mangers a very happy birthday. What a great guy. It's always a joy to see him at City Council. And his partner, Michael Sestak, who's such a great partner with Public Art. Wonderful team. I'd also like to say that I wholeheartedly support Rick Jennings with this idea of safe car camping. I think the time's long overdue. I look forward to the discussion on the 27th. I have a different take on the streetcar proposal, having been on the streetcar committee for years. I would actually direct the city manager not to bring this back, because the council has already taken a position on this. We decided how much we could allocate to it. We did so. RT has taken 2 votes on the matter. One was in opposition. It was brought back at the very next meeting with another member in attendance, and then passed. But this is a very substantial financial obligation to the city and a lot of risk. So here we have direction from 2 different areas, and I'd like to ask the city attorney, what do you do on this council when 2 council members direct you to do opposite things?
Vice Mayor Harris, in that respect, then the item needs to be agenda on the council agenda for discussion as to what direction to provide to staff.
Well, I appreciate that. I think this is a big issue, a big discussion, and it should be a vote of the council to decide whether or not we want to direct staff to move forward and come back with a proposal on whether or not to get involved in the streetcar to West Sacramento project, which is actually light rail.
Well,
Thank you.
wait a minute here, because this is not the place for a political debate, and we're not going to have it here. But I just want to point out that this is the thing that drives people mad here. So we do not even have a policy, and understandably so, by the way, about whether or not the city manager can use his good judgment to go on out and try to negotiate, if that's the right word, the best, what's in the best interest of the city and bring it back to the council for debate and discussion. Instead, the question is, does the city council have to actually have a vote to authorize the city manager to have the discussion in the first place? I'm sorry, that's dysfunctional. It's really dysfunctional. As far as I'm concerned, this is a live and ripe issue. Understand that Vice Mayor Harris has a different opinion than Councilmember Schneer, et cetera. The city manager should go out and quote, discuss and negotiate with whoever he wants on behalf of the city, what he thinks is the best resolution, and then come back to the city council and we can go thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs sideways. But there should not have to be this extra process where we have to give the city manager the permission to go out and do his job. It's ridiculous. This is exactly why we don't get things, that's exactly why we don't get safe parking done in this city, because everything is relitigated 5 times over with good intentions. But really, it's why things don't move fast in this city. And I'm frankly tired of it under any system. Let the city manager do his job, come back to the city council, and then we can vote up, down, or give him direction to go back and renegotiate. That's what I request. If there's nothing else to come before the city council, we're adjourned.